She might not text you or show anything, but deep down, something changes. Your absence triggers invisible reactions, and understanding those reactions might be the key to turning the emotional game in your favor. What really happens when you walk away? Today's video will show you subtle signs and truths that most men never notice, but that every woman feels. Stick around until the end, because this might just make you unforgettable. You might think, she just moves on with her life when you pull away. But what happens inside her is much more complex. When a man who once made his presence felt suddenly disappears from her daily life, there's an emptiness she can't always explain. And that emptiness shows up in the little things: breakfast without a message, a quiet night without your voice, or the routine that used to be shared. The impact of true absence is almost always silent, but deeply felt. She starts to realize how much space you were filling, even the ones she didn't know existed. I'm not talking about emotional dependency. I'm talking about purposeful masculine presence, the kind that brings security, attention, and genuine energy. You were the one who listened when she talked about work, who noticed the detail of her new necklace or the book she wanted to read. When you're gone, those gestures turn into memories. And when a memory is good, it becomes longing. And it's not just any kind of longing. It's that feeling of, why isn't he here anymore? And the curious thing is, she might even try to hide it. Keep her mind busy, focus on work, talk to friends. But deep down, she knows something's different. Because when a high-value man leaves, his silence speaks louder than 1,000 messages. He leaves an echo, and that echo stirs her emotions in a subtle but powerful way. Now, this only happens if, while you were present, you were different from most men. If you were that predictable, insecure, or needy guy, your absence will just be a relief. But if you were solid, engaging, and truly present, then yes, when you leave, she feels it. And she feels it more than she shows. Don't underestimate the effect a man who knows who he is can have when he walks away with grace. Every woman, deep down, feels something when a man pulls away. But what she feels says more about you than about her. The truth is simple. Did your presence carry weight or value? When you disappear, she might feel relieved. Or she might be pulled into a stream of thoughts she can't shake. And the most interesting part is that this feeling doesn't depend on how long you were together, but on the emotional intensity you brought into her life. If your energy was full of doubts, insecurity, or predictable actions, she won't think twice. Your absence becomes lightness. But if you were the kind of man who knew what he wanted, who had purpose, presence, and vision, your departure leaves a trail. She starts replaying conversations, gestures, moments that didn't even seem that significant at first, but now take on a whole new meaning. That's when longing shows up. And not as neediness, but as recognition of value. And you? Have you ever asked yourself which of the two reactions you're causing in the women you've been with? Because most men don't realize they're replaceable. And that's where the mistake lies. A woman can be polite, kind, but her emotional response is the real measure of your impact. If she misses you, even with no clear reason, you left a mark. If she only feels relief, maybe it's time to reassess your posture. Now I want to know, when you walk away, do you think she misses you or just feels free? Leave a comment below. I want to read your answer. And if it's hard to answer, honestly, that's already the first step in starting your transformation. Women remember the feeling a man left behind, not the sweet words he said. So the question is simple, but powerful. What feeling are you leaving behind? The female mind doesn't react well to the obvious. The more available you are all the time, the less she feels the need to imagine you. And desire is born exactly from imagination. When you're not around, but you still exist emotionally in her world, the mind starts filling the gaps with questions, memories, and assumptions. That's scarcity in its most powerful form. Absence with impact, not abandonment. Scarcity isn't about ignoring or playing cheap games. It's about balance. Men who live only for a woman lose their magnetism. But those who have their own life, mission, and projects, and don't give up on themselves just to please, naturally become rare. And everything rare is more desirable. When she feels she doesn't fully have you, that's when the chase begins. Not out of insecurity, but out of fascination. Picture a man who works in something he loves, who trains with discipline, who protects his own energy. He's with her because he chooses to be, not out of need or fear of losing her. That kind of posture is seen in the little things. He doesn't reply instantly to everything. He doesn't explain every minute, yet he still radiates confidence. She starts to realize she's with someone who doesn't need her to be whole, and that's seductive. Intentional absence builds value. When done authentically, it sparks questions like, did he think about me today? What's he doing right now? Who could he be with? And these questions are the fuel of feminine desire. A man who understands this doesn't need to chase. He knows that when he shows up, he's seen as someone who brings something that's missing in her world. There's a very specific moment when it hits her. You're no longer orbiting her world, and that moment can be uncomfortable, especially if she was used to being your top priority. A woman picks up on this between the lines. When you no longer react the way you used to, when your attention is somewhere else, when your actions show that something inside you has evolved, that changes everything. She starts to notice that your replies are more direct, your gaze calmer, your presence less anxious. And as contradictory as it may seem, that's when she starts looking for ways to regain control of the situation. The shift in focus isn't about ignoring her, it's about redirecting your energy. And a woman notices when you're less emotionally available, because now you're more committed to yourself. This role reversal is powerful. The woman who once felt secure knowing she always had your attention begins to feel something rare. The sense that she could lose you, not because of games or manipulation, but because you simply stopped living under the command of her desires. This triggers a deep emotional reaction. And it doesn't matter whether she's more rational or emotional. She's going to feel it. Being the center of your world was comfortable for her. But losing that place, even subtly, makes her look at you differently. That's when the internal questions start, the doubts, the tests. And if you hold your ground with calm confidence, no arrogance, no need to prove anything, you create a new dynamic, one where she has to adjust to your energy, not the other way around. And that completely changes the game of attraction. Women don't cling to what was said. They connect with what was felt. When you pull away, what stays behind isn't the promises or compliments, it's the emotional charge you left. Maybe it was a simple gesture of care, a steady look at the right moment, or even comforting silence when she needed it most. It's those unspoken details that remain alive in a woman's mind. She might not remember exactly what you said during that long late-night conversation, but she'll remember how you made her feel. She'll remember the calm you brought, the way you listened without rushing her, or the comfort of being by your side without needing to explain herself. Those feelings don't disappear easily. They become anchors. And every time she encounters something that reminds her of you, that memory is triggered. Men who leave an emotional mark aren't the most handsome or the richest. They're the most authentic, the ones who are present in mind, not just in body. A woman can feel that. When you're gone, it's not your physical absence she feels. It's the contrast between being with you and being with anyone else. And that contrast defines the power of the memory you created. If what you left behind was lightness, strength, presence, you became unforgettable. If you left pressure, insecurity, or neediness, she'll try not to even remember. The question is, are you creating memories she'll want to relive or forget? Because in the end, what really matters isn't how long you spent together, but the emotional mark you left while you were there. Few men understand the true power of silence. While many think they need to fill every gap with messages, explanations, or attempts at reconnection, those who know how to hold back realize a simple truth. The right silence communicates more than any words. It's not a lack of interest. It's self-control. It shows that you don't need her validation to stay steady on your path. To a woman, silence can be uncomfortable at first, but that very discomfort is what makes her reflect. She starts noticing the absence of your voice, your opinions, your energetic presence. And the more she tries to predict your reaction or imagine what you're thinking, the more emotionally involved she becomes. Well-placed silence takes her out of control of the game. Because now she's the one wondering. This doesn't mean disappearing or ghosting. It means knowing when to stay quiet. When she does something that upsets you and expects an impulsive reaction, silence shows maturity. When you notice the dynamic is off and stop chasing, silence shows self-worth. And when, after intense moments, you give her space to miss you without pressure, silence becomes a tool of emotional connection. Attraction is born from contrast, and if all you offer is constant, predictable presence, there is no contrast. Silence creates that difference. It generates creative tension, and in that tension, interest can be reborn with greater intensity, as long as you're at peace with it. Because silence only works when it comes from a man who's comfortable in his own company, and that, to a woman, is incredibly attractive. Absence only has value when it's preceded by meaningful presence. It's no use just disappearing and hoping she misses you if you didn't offer anything valuable while you were around. To be remembered, you have to have been different. You have to have left a unique feeling. Men who vanish out of nowhere without making an impact are just another face in the crowd. But the one who steps away after creating real connection, that man stays in her mind. Making your absence unforgettable starts with intention. You don't walk away out of spite, pride, or manipulation. You do it because you know your worth and choose where to invest your energy. A woman picks up on that. She sees that you're not trying to punish her with silence, but rather reaffirming who you are, with maturity. And that attitude, even in silence, says, I don't need to be here to be remembered. Small gestures, when authentic, create deep roots. A sincere piece of advice given at the right time. A hug that lasted a few seconds longer. A look that said more than 1,000 words. These seemingly simple details are what come back to her. Mind when you're no longer around. And she may try to move on, but some presences become a point of comparison. You can be that standard. There's no magic formula. But there is posture, vision, and consistency. And when your presence is strong and your absence has purpose, you don't need to explain yourself. You become the name that comes to mind when everything goes quiet. The one she remembers when she hears a certain song or revisits a familiar place. And that, my friend, is the kind of memory that doesn't fade. If this content made you reflect, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll keep evolving with us in every video. And the next one is already on the screen. Click on it and continue your journey. This is just the beginning.